We're here. Lou, we're back.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, buddy. I missed you last week.
Yeah. We had went down to Nashville to broadcast some hockey games for the ACHA. They had the Southeast Collegiate Frozen Showcase.
Cool.
And it was 8 college teams. It was a lot of fun. It was a good time.
Good. Glad you had fun.
For sure.
We have a phenomenal show, folks. We've already got a bunch of people watching. I pushed this out. But before we get to our special guest, and I'm going to show you, I never have done this in the years that I've done this, but I'm doing it tonight because of who we have on. I dressed up. I'm wearing a tie. I'm wearing my Phillies Hawaiian shirt because this guest deserves this. I have to look my Saturday best, which is not Sunday because I'm Jewish. I would go to Sabbath services on Saturday. So by my bar mitzvah best, if you will. So we'll bring Jane on in just a little while because we first have to talk about our beloved Lions and Eagles.
Oh boy,
what a disaster!
Well, I feel bad for your Eagles. I thought for sure they'd win. That's one that I got wrong. I don't know what's going on there. They played like a team that only won 5 games and has no defense. You know,
it went on all year. And my wife and I said, they're going to be one and done. And a lot of people did. They're going to be one and done. They had hope that this offense would find something, but everybody said it's not going to change. And it didn't, really. You got Saquon out on the outside a couple times. He got some good yardage. They did nothing in the second half to continue that. Even Tank Bigsby was great until the second half. We're playing against the number 5 and number 6 linebackers. Hardly a throw over the middle the whole game. It was a disaster. Kevin Petula was gone as the offensive coordinator. Don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully he doesn't stay in the organization. He was fired from that position, but he's not going to be coming back as the offensive coordinator. But you can't listen. They really can't keep him in the building. It's embarrassing for him to keep him in the building.
Why would you want to be there?
I don't know. Just go away. You know. So they've got some work to do to find somebody who can work with Jalen. Jalen is not a great quarterback. Was he great last year? I would say he was pretty darn good. He wasn't ever reached the level of greatness, but he was last year in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. So he's got to work on some things. Yes, he's going to have another offensive coordinator, which is like 6 and 6 years or 5 and 5 years, whatever the heck it is. But it's going to be interesting. But let's get to the playoffs this week. So we've got on Saturday, we've got the Broncos and the Bills and the Seahawks and the Niners. Who you got?
I'm going to go Seahawks and Bills.
That's who I have.
I've got I said the Bills and the Rams in the Super Bowl from the beginning of the playoffs. I'm sticking with it.
Oh, God. So you think the Rams are going to beat the Bears in Chicago?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. All right. Patriots, Texans, the way the Texans played this past weekend?
I know, right? It's kind of fool's gold a little bit because they got 2 defensive touchdowns in the fourth quarter. That's going to be a good game. That's a toss-up, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm leaning towards the Patriots. I'm going to go with the Patriots in that one.
They've been more consistent, which Stroud had a horrendous game giving up the ball. Probably has learned a little bit from that, you think? Hold on to the damn ball, you knucklehead. But I just think the Patriots are on a roll.
Yeah. They played an overrated Chargers team, in my opinion, who had no offensive line and no offense, really. And Houston's better, but I don't know how much. And, I mean, their defense is phenomenal. Let's face it. I think
absolutely,
I think it's going to be a low-scoring game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're betting on that game, bet the under. But I don't know. I'm going to go with the home team. It's going to be really close. And then, I think the Rams are going to beat the Bears. The Packers, I don't know how they blew that lead.
Neither does everybody in Green Bay.
I despise the Packers, but I think if that MO of trying to play catch up like they did against the Packers in week 4 against the Lions, and the Lions didn't fold. I mean, they let them catch up, but they won. I think they try to do that against the Rams. They're going to lose.
Yeah, they got to get out and play. They got to make it go into halftime at least tied or the lead, because it's tough. It's the playoffs. It's a different animal. Caleb, we'll see how he does.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Major League Baseball news. Ranger Suarez goes to the Boston Red Sox, which for us Phillies fans, we think pretty much opens up the Bo Bichette sweepstakes to the Yankees, which really haven't been mentioned much, or the Phillies. Philly fans got their one wish. Patullo is out. We are now hoping that Bo Bichette signs, which will, the dominoes will then begin to fall with Bohm going somewhere. They're going to eat Castellanos' salary. No one wants him, and we don't know what JT's doing. Could they keep JT? And if they get Bo Bichette, here's the thing. I'm not Middleton, obviously, but if I was and I was in his position, damn it, pay the tax, do it for this 1 year. You got a bunch of money coming off the payroll next year. Just do it. Get Bichette. Let him hang around. $26 million average annual value. Let him give him 26, whatever it is. He wants 7 years. Do it. You have a chance now to solidify that offense with a right-handed bat. So that's what we're hoping. Kyle Tucker, Cody Bellinger, Framber Valdez still out there. Mets supposedly offered $50 million a year to Tucker on a short-term deal. Well, we'll see what happens, because the Mets are not going to do anything this year, which is fine with us.
The Mets are the Mets.
The Mets are going to Mets. All right, here we go. Here are some reviews from the book, this phenomenal book. Here they are, from David Moranis, author of Clemente, The Passion and Grace of Baseball's Last Hero. No one makes me laugh and think and nod my head, yes, more than Jane Leavy, when she is writing about baseball, the sport we all love. Fat chance to ever let her become commissioner. I started a petition. But her combination of joy, humor, intelligence, deep historical knowledge, and common sense about how to save the game is precisely what it needs. Robert Pinsky, 3-time United States Poet Laureate. As a big league storyteller, Jane Leavy has all the tools. Wise ass sense of humor. I love that. Eye for detail, knack for dialogue, a major address book of large personalities, which we will talk about. And she knows what she's talking about. The story she makes so lively about what has gone wrong and what used to be our national pastime just may be a story about our nation too, which we're not really going to get into. But, I read the book. I finished yesterday. It's a lot of good information, crazy information. Let's bring Jane Leavy on. Hi, Jane. Hi there. I dressed up for you.
Where's the sound?
You're on.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Check your computer. Check and see it. Because we can hear you.
Yeah, now she's muted.
Mute Mike.
There you go.
Can you hear us? Uh-oh.
I don't see it.
Well, we can hear her plain as day.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Let me I'm gonna
Hello.
we hear you.
Check the top of her computer to see if the sound bar is on.
All right, let me hold on.
Technology is great.
Check. I'm going to say we hear you. We hear you. Oh no, technical difficulties. Oh my God.
I can't hear.
Hello.
I can't hear you.
Oh man.
Here, let me try something here.
Okay, Lou's going to check something out. We're going to get you back on in a second. I know. I got you. I just got the message. I know.
Well, I'll just start talking.
All right. I can text you messages.
I don't know where the sound is.
Oh my gosh. Well, let me text you. All right. I'm going to write this down.
Oh, you've unmuted my mic. Okay, great.
Can you hear me?
I still can't hear you.
Oh, man.
It's something on her end.
Yeah, it's on your end.
Why don't you text? Why don't we have her sign off and sign back on?
All right. Go back out. Go back out and sign.
Okay.
We'll try that. Never a dull moment with live TV and live podcasting.
I know. So she's going to go out.
Okay. Well,
you started your journey with this.
All right. Maybe we'll wait for her to sign back in.
A few years ago, cross country. Tell us what you learned.
All right, we're going to bring her back.
Hello?
Okay. Hi. How are you?
Are you there?
I am.
Sometimes that's all it takes is to turn it off and turn it on. As crazy as it sounds.
It's almost like analytics, Sometimes it's more difficult than it needs to be.
Exactly. Where are you guys?
I am in Wilmington, North Carolina.
And
Why did I think you were in Wilmington, Delaware? No, I didn't. I just joking.
I am just outside of Lansing, Michigan.
And I'm in Washington, D.C., where a reporter's home was invaded by the FBI today.
Today?
Yeah.
Ay.
Washington Post reporter home they went looking for material that they said she stole that was given that was from, classified. And even though people don't think of sports writers as real reporters, they are real reporters. And this makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're gonna segue into your trip around the country, my dear.
Yes, good.
With this book, when it first came out,
no sound. You just disappeared.
Oh my gosh, Lou, help!
Well, I'm here, but you can't.
Okay, I can hear Captain Lou.
All right.
Me?
No, Mitch.
Really? This is weird.
Yeah.
Mitch, it's your fault.
And I even dressed up.
Okay, Lou, ask me questions.
Oh gosh, I'm.
Lou, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can't hear Mitch.
Should I go back out, Lou?
Sure. I'll have you both sign out and then Mitch sign back in real quick.
Okay.
Jane, you don't have to sign out. I'm just going to take you off the screen.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, the magic of live television at its finest. We'll blame it on the January cold here, anyways. So, all right, I'll bring you back on. Can you hear me, Jane?
I can hear you.
All right, let me ask you this. I always like to ask people this that I meet. Where was the first baseball game you ever went to?
You mean other than the Little League I played in?
Yeah, like first professional game you went to.
There's a good story. Can you hear me?
Hi. You were talking about the Yankees? Yeah. Well, the better story is that my father, who was a Giants fan, was miserable when the Giants and the Dodgers left after 57. I grew up on Long Island. So he decided inexplicably to take my older sister to Ebbets Field at the end of 57. My sister still can't ride a bike. 75 years old, no balance. She's a total klutz. Please don't hear this. Anyway, lovely, smart, can't ride a bike and can't throw a ball. So he takes her to Ebbets Field. I'm like 5, right? What am I, chop liver? They bring back from Ebbets Field this girly, they had these girl hats that you couldn't call a cap. They were like wide brim, alternating panels of Dodger blue and white. And I took it and I threw it in the dirt and stomped on it. So in a way, what I remember most is the first game I didn't go to.
What about I was amazed that you found your grandmother and you found the glove where?
Oh, so my grandmother lived 2 long blocks of, a long, loud foul ball from home plate at the old real Yankee Stadium when it was on the other side of 161st Street. And so to be close to her, and she was the quintessential matriarch grandmother, meant to be close to the Yankees and vice versa. And she went to synagogue at the Concourse Plaza Hotel, which still exists, although it's an old age home now, I think, or something like that. And back in the day, it was, the swanky place in the Bronx where everybody was bar mitzvahed. And John F. Kennedy made an appearance there when he was running for president. It was the bomb. And as some of you may know or not know, as the case may be, in a conservative synagogue, women and men aren't allowed to sit together. God knows what might happen, right? So that meant that my grandmother and I were sitting upstairs in the balcony, the balustrade. And the rest of my family was there too. Mm-hmm. But I would hide in the big burgundy velvet drapes that hung, that was a story high. And I could hide in there and with my radio, my transistor radio, and watch the back wall of Yankee Stadium. And for an instant, as some of you know, there was a gap between the station, the elevated station of the IRT, and the back wall of the ballpark. And so for an instant, you could see green. You could see the green of the grass. And in my very young years, I thought you could see Hector Lopez settling under a foul ball, a fly ball that he would screw up. But in fact, I was looking at right field, so right. Not left field. Anyway, that same year, recognizing, and this is why she was the best grandmother, how much I love baseball. She took me downtown on the IND, which still stops at Yankee Stadium. Mm-hmm. Used to be something like CC Local, and it stops at 50th and just off Fifth Avenue. Guess what's there? Saks Fifth Avenue. I wanted a baseball glove. So as far as she was concerned, there was only one place to shop for if you wanted, as my grandfather, the tailor, would have said, good goods, right? So down we go to Saks Fifth Avenue. And lo and behold, since it's opening day week, there's a mannequin, and I can see her clearly in the window right by the front door of Saks Fifth Avenue with a glove on her left hand. And she's wearing a Yankee jersey, right? And I think you might have called them culottes back in the day.
Right.
Something like that, right? And my grandmother goes inside and, accosts a salesman who has nothing to do with the windows or baseball gloves, of which Saks Fifth Avenue had exactly one, and says, I'll have that for my granddaughter. And the man, who looked a little bit like Mr. Whipple in the Charmin commercials, mm-hmm. says, Madam, that's not for sale. And she said, I'll have that for my granddaughter. And, he got one more that's not for, and gave up. I went home with a glove, which was engraved with the name of one Sammy Esposito. Now, I had no clue at age 5 who Sammy Esposito
of course.
was. Nobody had a clue. I mean, he may not have even been playing for the Chicago White Sox yet. If I was 5, no, he wasn't yet in the major leagues. But anyway, no, he had to be because he had a glove.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah. So, of which there were exactly 2. Because when I became a reporter at the Washington Post in the years where we had no baseball team, one could say we haven't had a baseball team for about the last 4 or 5 years anyway, the Nats being what they've been. It was my job to think up a story about baseball for opening day. And one year I called Sammy Esposito, who was an assistant athletic director at North Carolina State. It turned out he was a very good basketball player, and he worked with Jimmy V. And I tell him the story, and he goes, "Do you still have it?"
Oh.
And I go, "My mother threw it away." And I can see him clutching his head.
Yeah.
I said, "I'm so sorry. What about yours?" And he goes, he lent it to David Thompson. Some of us remember him as the great player, who lent it to Monty Tao, the shrimp, shrimpy guard, for a softball game. And Sammy never saw it again.
Never got it. Yeah.
No. Now, my Sammy Esposito glove had no pocket.
Oh, really? Yeah.
No pocket. Catching anything with it was an impossibility. The thumb and the pinky had more stuffing than a flat-chested girl's bra.
Right.
So it was, anyway, a really good friend of mine, great sports writer, Steve Wolf, who was with Sports Illustrated for years, went online. I guess he trolled eBay and got me found one cool. And sent me a Sammy Esposito glove.
That's cool.
It is cool.
All right. So listen, you started out, and I heard this on another podcast. You had an interesting meeting with Joe Torre and Sandy Koufax at the hotel in Cooperstown, and they had an interesting response to your question about baseball these days.
I didn't ask them a question. I was so gobsmacked to be sitting on the veranda of the Odasaga on induction weekend with Joe and his wife and Sandy and his wife and little old me that you don't go there to report. You gather gossip and string, as old reporters say. But I didn't ask them a question. They got to talking as they would about today's baseball. And, Joe says, hard to watch. And Joe was still working for Major League Baseball then. And Sandy goes, I don't watch. And this was 2019. It was the year that Mariano Rivera was inducted first unanimous selection. You think they would have made Willie Mays a unanimous selection?
Yeah,
I don't know. Anyway,
it still bothers us. Yes.
They start to go into this long conversation that I wasn't carrying a notebook. You don't do that on induction weekend. I wasn't recording anything. So I have absolutely no idea what they said. I couldn't quote him, but Joe's saying, yeah, because they throw like this. Sandy says half the time they don't know where the ball's going. And Sandy says, they have to reach across the plate. And Joe's like imitating or, waving his bat at something. And I'm like, they don't watch baseball. Joe has to still in his job back then.
Right.
Sandy doesn't watch baseball. And it's very typical of old timers. But this is Sandy Koufax. How was it that I was at a table in Cooperstown and I'm the only one at the table who still watches baseball?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I mean, listen, I was talking, one of the things that I wanted to go over, and the main part of your book is all about what's changed. What has analytics done to baseball? The other part I want to discuss and throw into this, my friend Jane, is, there are several generations of us, the old guard, right, who like Joe and Sandy, and this younger generation and a generation that we're trying to increase the population of viewership of to enjoying the game. Is this mostly coming from this older generation?
The impatience with it?
Pardon?
The impatience with today's game?
Or just the inability, the wanting to have it quote the old way.
Oh yeah.
And now now it's because are even those, and I'll say it, millennials, the 40-year-olds, the 30, are they even? I mean, I see a lot of people on their phones at the game, right? They're not watching.
Yeah.
Do they even know what they're doing? Who really cares about?
They're betting now. They're betting.
Right, and we'll talk about and we'll talk about that too with the
look. I think
the bots and baseball game for kids online, which I read about too. We'll get to that in a little bit too. But what's going on? I mean, what really is
as Buck Showalter said, you don't want to be the guy, the old man in the front yard yelling at the kids to get off the grass. You don't. That's not a progressive position to take. There are things about analytics that are irrefutably accurate and good. There's no doubt about it, and they ain't going away. Mm-hmm. So the question is not whether they're going to exist. It's the question is who has control over when and how they're used. They so much have taken over the decision making. The algorithm says 9 times out of 10, this is going to happen. The problem in baseball is that it's the 10th time that you can't predict. Mm-hmm. And, who would have predicted that in not this year's World Series, the year before, that Garrett Cole would have a brain lock and forget to throw to first base, in the World Series against the Dodgers. Human things happen because it's human beings, not little widgets playing the game. The wind blows and blows a ball away from a guy who's otherwise been in perfect position. A pebble in the infield dirt, as there was in 1924, that gave the then Washington Senators the World Series championship against the Giants, because the ball hit the pebble. A ball hit a pebble twice and went over the third baseman's head. It's those things. It's the unpredictability. Joe said it's unpredictable in a good way. He always cites the example of Rajay Davis playing for the then Cleveland Indians, who, he was playing center field. He had hit all of 12 home runs that year. It's the 7th game of the World Series, and it's Joe Madden against Terry Francona, and two great managers, pretty evenly matched teams. And this guy comes up. Nobody's going to pick him to be the guy who hits a home run, right?
Right.
The analytics would say, pinch hit for him if you can.
Yeah.
Send somebody else up. But it's those moments also that are what distinguishes baseball and where the drama and the passion, exists. Mm-hmm. The best example I can come up with was that in the playoffs this last fall, between the first round between the Yankees and the Red Sox, Cam Schlittler, whose name I'm not going to mess up tonight, this young guy that virtually nobody had ever heard of, including Yankee fans, comes out and he is mowing them down. And at the 7th inning, after the 7th inning, he goes into the dugout. Everybody thinks he's done. Right now, the fact of the matter is that neither team had much full bullpen at the time. So he goes down. Everybody's got and wouldn't you know it, Aaron fucking Boone, as he was known in the Boston dugout, sends the guy back out for the 8th inning. Who else did he have? One might say.
Right.
But the response to that, the roar of the crowd at a guy being allowed to attempt to do what he has been practicing his whole life to do, was so striking that the guys in the booth, I think it was Buster Olney, covering it for ESPN, said, this is the crowd telling Major League Baseball what they want, what they miss about baseball. Yes, there are things, the numbers and the equations are irrefutable, about angles and this and that, it's all, it's math.
Right.
But what it's not, what it can't do is predict that 10th time.
That's right. And you talk a good amount about, the pitchers and, pitching coming out after having 7 innings, throwing 7 innings or 6 innings of a perfect
5.2 is the average start.
But the point was, the average start's 5.2, but they're pitching a no-hitter or a perfect game, and they come out, right?
I'll never forgive Blake Snell, for coming out. He's his last game in a Padres uniform, and he's throwing a no-hitter, and and this, of course, is the guy who was yanked from the playoffs, the World Series, the last game of the World Series. In the COVID year by Kevin Cash. He was untouchable in that game. The Dodgers were so happy. I mean, all year long, the Rays had pulled him because they had numbers that showed third time through the order, whatever it is, that he faltered. The Dodgers were deliriously happy that he came out. Okay, flash forward 3 years, and now he's pitching for the Padres, who are a team that gets incredible support. I mean, partly because it's so nice to sit outside there.
Right.
It's a beautiful ballpark and great weather. But okay, these people show up. So it's the end of the season. They have once again failed to make the playoffs. And he comes out, Bob Melvin takes him out at the end of the 7th inning. And I'm just like, don't these fans deserve an opportunity to see a no-hitter? What about the obligation to entertain?
Mm-hmm.
The obligation to try. I mean, when Davey Roberts took Clayton Kershaw
right,
out of a perfect game after 7 innings in Minneapolis, and Clayton Kershaw's first start of that year is 22. He'd been injured much of 21, and he hadn't pitched in the playoffs. And it's cold, and the Minnesota lineup is, to say the least, tepid.
Right.
But they just made these decisions. But they make these decisions beforehand. He's going to go 7 innings. That's it. And then we're pulling him. In fact, he let him go a little bit longer than the pre-game meeting had allowed. Kershaw asked for a little bit more. So, but, now it's the 7th inning. And he comes out of the game, and, that's it, bro. Now, Kershaw had done by that point everything that there is to do as a starting pitcher in baseball. That is a measure of greatness. Mm-hmm. And it's a hard call because, Dusty Baker and Buck Showalter and all these old managers said, Davey did the right thing. It was his first game of the season. If he was without him for the rest of the year, but Bill the Spaceman Lee called me the next morning and screaming, and he says, "Did you see that?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Did you see that?" He said, "You know what Ferguson Jenkins said?" He said, "I wouldn't have come out of a perfect game if my arm was broken and I had to roll the ball to home plate."
Right.
That's the old mentality.
It is.
And, Kershaw didn't protest. He didn't give, Roberts a hard time about it. Mm-hmm. He did almost immediately regret it. His old friend and former catcher, A.J. Ellis, called him that afternoon afterward and said, "Oh, come on, man." And Kershaw says, "Yeah, I should have fought for it." But he didn't want to cause dissension. That's his personality. But the point is, Bill Lee says to me, is crying. He's crying. And I said, "Bill, Spaceman, why are you crying?" And he goes, "Because he wasn't given a chance to find out how good he could be." Mm. But also, the fans weren't given a chance to see how good baseball can be.
Right.
And that's my big problem.
That's the big thing, right? We're not being given an opportunity to really see what these guys now. Again, we're talking about pitching, right? We note in the book, and you note on a lot of your podcasts, how many Tommy John surgeries has there been in the past, 2, 3, 4 years? It's crazy.
It's insane. I have the new numbers somewhere. I can go dig them out for you after this last season. It didn't go down. Let's put it that way. I think it's over 3,000 total, but there's a guy who keeps track of it as best he can, because of course Major League Baseball isn't going to release actual numbers, so he has to base it on anecdotal accounts and newspaper stories. But the point is, if this style of pitching was working, if guys weren't having their lives and their arms and their elbows shredded, almost routinely, you could say, okay, I get the point. I see what you're doing, but it isn't working. It's not just endangering, the careers of these guys. It's endangering, the quality and the definition of baseball.
Right.
On the other hand, I asked Kevin Cash about it, who's clearly not with my program, and I'm not with his program. And he said, can I quote him exactly, or do I have to clean it up for you?
Good, you can quote him. It's more fun because I want you to be spicy.
I'm spicy. So he says, fuck that shit. It's the old days. You put the ball in the guy's shoe and the pitcher's shoe. It's your day. It's your game. It's your ball. Well, fuck that. We're about winning. So, yeah, and you can make that argument that it works better, except that by July, nobody has a functioning bullpen.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They're all injured, and they're borrowing each other's retreads and saying, oh, they must not have a good enough pitching lab. We'll be able to rescue him. And then, and then he's released 3 hours later.
Right.
So it depletes the game of one of the things that made it so great. And so stereotypically, not stereotypically, so dramatic. I mean, we all know the stories about, Matt Dillon and, the dirt facing some bad guy at what, 20 paces, 30 paces? I forget what they went. Well, really, that's not very different from a pitcher and a hitter, or a pitcher against another great pitcher. Matchups used to actually matter. Right. And they mattered not just in terms of what are his numbers against this guy, in the seventh inning with 2 outs and three balls and 1 strike on the batter. It's like, who cares who his numbers were in that completely minor situation? That is such an irrefutably American narrative, and it's gone. It's just over.
We used to watch, and then you did too. I mean, back in the day, I was a Mets fan, and how many great pitchers were there back in the day? And I would tell my people back in the day, Kurt Gowdy and Tony Kubek, Saturday afternoon baseball, every team had a Hall of Famer. So then you were looking at the paper that morning, Seaver against Gibson. Oh, I can't wait to watch that. Right? It was
it's a reason to go to the ballpark.
Reason to go, or even just to watch. Yeah, that was it. Right. Now you get a couple of those. You don't get a lot. You get a few, but you don't get as many as you used to. I want to get to.
May I just add before you
do
that? Guess, do you know how many total complete games was the most pitched by any pitcher in this last year? I didn't say that very well.
Was it 2?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
And Koufax with what, 25? It's like,
I encourage people to go back and go hit Baseball Reference and just go Google how many complete games were thrown and go by year. Go by even starting the 70s, and you'll see what the difference is now. It's truly phenomenal.
And you know what he says about that? We didn't know any better.
Exactly. It's just the way it was.
You know, Leo Mazzoni, who was the great pitching coach for the Braves in the era of Maddox and Glavine and Smoltz and all those dudes, you know, he tells me, and I believe him, but we couldn't find the, you know, scorecards, that he went, you know, entire seasons where nobody missed a turn. It's like, you know, everybody says, oh, you know, you'd have the same pitching staff at the beginning and the end. I mean, can you imagine that with 11 guys?
No,
not today.
Nothing happened. All right, before we get into more like a list of what, because I want you to list specifically the things that you want to do to make baseball better, and you know what's wrong with it. And one of these things is, again, the entertainment value. And you mentioned the Savannah Bananas.
Yes.
And I talked to my wife about this evening. And I said, you know, initially I thought it was what they were doing is pretty cool. And then I was thinking, would I ever go? And right now, at this age, I would not. Now, if I had a kid.
Not intended for you.
Pardon?
It's not meant for you.
And that's what I want to get into, because I want to. And I said, okay, if my girls, if I was younger and these guys came out, you know, 20 years ago, and my kids were 13, would I go? I still don't know, because and I tried to make the comparison to the Harlem Globetrotters. And what I did was thinking, okay, you know what? It's still basketball. You still have to dribble and pass and shoot and play defense. That's not what the Savannah Bananas do. They changed the rules. So I probably wouldn't like it because I'm a hardcore baseball fan. But what do they do in your book? How do they relate to making baseball better?
Well, the guy who created them, Jesse Cole, the man in the yellow tux, I think he's up to 7 of them now. That's special order tuxes. I mean, he was a pitcher in college, and he wrecked his shoulder. And he always wanted to pitch for the Red Sox. He's a kid from Massachusetts. And in fact, he was a ball boy once. And he went up to the Cape after he was injured, and he was an assistant coach. And I spend my summers up there. So, you know, I thought he was going to say he revered it. He's sitting on the bench in Cotuit, which is one of the towns right down near the foot of the Cape. And he says he's sitting there and he goes, I'm bored, which was, you know, to him. Now he's he's got to be ADHD. This guy's he's all over the field.
Boom, boom.
But he isolated correctly what the estrangement was between baseball and its fans and the generations of people who have no interest in being fans. And it's true. It had become predictable. It had become, you know, as predictable as a bouncer in the hole. And because everybody was taught to swing the same way, and everybody was taught to throw the same way. And, you know, they had shifts to prevent hits and and it just got more and more and more boring. And he recognized that baseball had lost contact, I would say, with its fans. You know, so his motto became fans first, entertainment always.
Okay.
And now he's taken the entertainment always to extremes. It's really funny. You know, they've expanded so much. Now they're having a league, and it's up to 6 teams, and they even have analytics, for God's sakes, which they call juice points.
Juice points.
Yeah.
And maybe MLB should have used that term, and maybe it would be more acceptable. Who knows?
So, you know, it's a phenomenon. I've gone multiple times. I loved it the first time when it was in a Kansas City bandbox. And I loved it because the players went and interacted with people in the stands. I saw, you know, there's the yellow guys, the bananas, and their first foil were the party animals. in pink and in shocking pink. And those are the guys whose main job is to take off their shirts. If you want to be a party animal, you better be willing to strip down and you better be buff. So anyway, before they strip down, there's a little boy sitting in the stands right up front behind home plate at a spring training field. It was, in fact, the Nats spring training field in West Palm. And he climbs into the stand and he looks at this little boy, sits down next to him, and he pulls out a pen and he says, "Will you sign my jersey?" There is so much right about that gesture. It completely inverts the expectations of modern baseball, that a signature is, a totem. It's like it's an icon in a Russian Orthodox church. It's, and instead it's saying to this little boy, "You matter to me. I want to remember you." And Coach Adam Virant, the former lawyer who created the juice factor points, looks at me and said, "That kid just became a baseball fan." I mean, the kid was gobsmacked. That is what in a encapsulated form that baseball doesn't do anymore. And it used to be that, that they lived in the neighborhoods. They schmeared around on the local golf courses. There's none of that. And the separation is actually not just metaphorical, it's actually physical. I mean, Lee Smith said to me, great reliever for Chicago, that he still has friends that he made from the time when the bullpen was on the field. And he knew all those people sitting there. There was plenty of time to talk. And they're not fans to him. They're his friends.
It's the interaction. And I said this to my wife today also. My dad took me to synagogue to the men's club meeting one night. Gene Michael was playing. He's the shortstop of the Yankees. Okay. He spoke. He talked. Maybe it was a half an hour, not the most. It wasn't long. We got an autograph on a little piece of paper. Guess what? I became a Gene Michael fan from then on. I followed him from then on. I was probably 13 or 14 at the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm following Gene Michael because I met him. So one of the things you said was, and what Jesse does with the Bananas is they're interactive. You've got to become.
They're entertainers.
Well,
they recognize their obligation to entertain, and that is something that baseball feels is implicit, endemic to the game itself. That's the carnival. Mike Rizzo, former Nats GM, said. Well, it is to people who see the glory of a pivot in a double play at second base, but these guys don't know to look for that.
Right.
They don't see that stuff, and they're not taught to appreciate it. So, it was interesting. Last postseason was about as good as baseball can get.
Right.
I mean, there were things like Mookie Betts for the Dodgers against the Phillies putting on the wheel play. That wasn't preordained by anybody. That was a baseball player using his experience, his wit, and his talent to a degree that you never see. And the players on the field decided,
right.
And they got the out at third base, and then their poor pitcher, Ryan
Kirkering.
Or
I shudder when I hear that name.
Oh my God, that poor guy! He as a comebacker. Who hit that? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Right at him.
I was yelling at the television right after that.
And and he should have thrown to first. He froze. Now, do I feel bad for the guy? Of course I do. Would I sort of hate this Phillies team to go through its, lifetime, its arc without ever really succeeding? I mean, they got to the World Series against the Astros, and the famous series in which there was no player, no African American player on either team.
Yeah.
But it's so human. People talked about it. There may not be, water cooler meetings anymore because nobody goes to offices anymore, but in the chat rooms and things, everybody, baseball fans or not, knew about Orion Kirkering. Is that how you say it?
That's it.
Kirkering.
Yep.
And my immediate reaction was he'll never play for them again. But
And
I think he is.
well, he will be. I didn't want him to, but you know what? That's me as a reaction. But I'm not going to get into the Philly stuff. I want to go away from that in terms of mental toughness, because the Phillies don't really have it. All right. So entertainment. What is your solution? What is one of your solutions? How to fix that aspect of it with interaction with kids?
Last postseason, I'm going to answer this, but back into it. Last postseason was so good. People were saying to me, "What do you mean? There's nothing wrong with the game. Look at this postseason. Every series was fabulous." It was fabulous because it was the postseason, when the rules that govern regular season play were not enforced, and so you had those transcendent moments. So everything that's right about baseball was on display in the postseason. And what's wrong about it is only that it only pertains in the postseason, where there is, for example, no ghost runner. Now, that's something that I loathe beyond imagining. Why? For those, I'm assuming everybody knows about baseball, but that was a thing installed in 2020 during the COVID years, where you could see why they would want to get games over with and get people out of, by which I mean the teams, because there were no fans, get them out of the ballpark, et cetera, et cetera. But it is so quintessentially opposed to what baseball is.
Right.
Baseball is a game. It's very, sort of classically American. You had to earn your way around the bases.
That was the key. I heard you say that on one of the podcasts. I said, well, that's it. You had to earn your way. That's it. So what's your solution? Lou just said to me, we have to be off in 13 minutes.
Okay. So first of all, I talked to the great Roger Angell about it. He was the writer for the New Yorker. And baseball had pretty much broken his heart by the time he died at age, I can't remember, it was 101 or 102. And, he said, there are no power alleys. And then he clutched his head, the ghost runner. He said, for God's sake, can't we at least go to the 13th inning, and let baseball games end the way baseball games are intended to end? The biggest success they've had was, the pitch clock.
Yeah.
And no, everybody's over it. It's fine.
Correct.
Timelessness had become a real problem. And so it's worked beautifully, and they deserve commendation for that. Theo deserves commendation for that. But the other things that have attacked the central core of the game, like the ghost runner, first of all, saving all that time isn't as necessary now because games are proceeding more, they're better paced and they're shorter. So my proposal is let them go through the batting order another time, 13th inning. I did research, 75% of extra inning games end by the end of the 10th.
Yeah.
So you're legislating for a problem preemptively.
It's not there, right?
It's not there. What else would I do? Despite, the increases, and there have been increases since the pitch clock went in, and, and they've changed start times to make it more possible for kids to go, all things that I was suggesting before they did it, but okay. The fact is, the generations of devout baseball fans, people like you and me, who have supported the game and filled the coffers and the seats, we're dying. We're all, my friend Mike Halpert, the economist, the sports economist, said, we're gone. We're just gone. Pretty soon we're not going to be able to climb all those steps, right? And it's true. And what baseball has neglected to do, and it is a systemic problem that goes all the way down to what Little League has become, which is a province of losers. They haven't learned to grow a new generation of fans, and it's essential. If you don't want baseball to become just a niche sport, this is what has to happen. This is my most radical suggestion, and Mike provided the buttressing facts for it. Every kid in Jane's world under the age of 10, or Mike said actually under the age of 12, gets in free if they're accompanied by a sober adult, right?
Sober, okay, yeah.
I mean, look at the swaths of empty seats. Baseball has what, economics calls, an inventory problem. Too many games, too many seats. You can fill an NBA, arena 80 times a year. You can sell out of, ridiculously sized NFL stadia 18 times or you can't do it. And the truth is it didn't happen before when everything was day games because, those seats were empty too.
Exactly.
But
average attendance, I looked it up, 29,000 plus for this
I think
year.
it's up 2%.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, which is okay. That's great. I'm not saying it's not great. It's not enough.
Right.
And it will continue, and it will fall again when we're dead. So let Grandpa take a kid to the ballpark while Grandpa can still walk, and buy him a small Coke and a small hot dog and a cotton candy and a small little, Phillies cap. And according to my friend Michael Hauper, professor of economics at the University of Wisconsin, La Crosse, if he does that, what's going to happen is the Cubs lose. I mean, Mike's a Cubs fan, so he used the Cubs menu. They would lose $4 million on that deal. Now, let me just say, the baseball owners have been, crying poorhouse forever. And I don't believe any of them, frankly. But that said, $4 million isn't chump change to you or me. It is to those 30 guys.
Right. So they can afford.
They can afford this.
Afford to do that.
Can you imagine the goodwill that would be engendered? Because baseball's too expensive. The goodwill when I stand up as commissioner and say, welcome to the new era. We want you guys back. We know it's too expensive. We know it's hard. So here's what we're going to do. And what's more, because it costs, gazillion dollars to buy the ridiculous things that they make, waffles with hot dogs and bacon and taco sauce. It's nauseating. Nobody should eat that stuff. How about taking some of those picnic grounds that they all have and allowing people to bring food from home the way they used to? There are a couple of ballparks that actually allow it.
They do. Okay.
So let's make it easy to be a baseball fan and to become a baseball fan. Some of the old things that really mattered, were as simple as clinics. I mean, Mickey Mantle, for God's sakes, did kid clinics on the field. One of the things that the Bananas do really well, and I'm not talking about the antics that go on throughout the middle of the game, but they do have entertainments, that are fun. Some of them are stupid. It's become a hot place for bachelorette parties because they all want to look at the studly party animals, right? But the baby races down the third baseline, where mama's standing at one end and yelling, come to me, sweetheart, come to me. Those are hilarious.
Yeah.
Why can't kids race against the racing pierogies or the presidents? Why can't a high school kid warm up a pitcher?
Why can't I, an old guy who loves baseball, become a ball boy? Maybe there's insurance issues, right? But that's something I would love.
That would be hilarious,
right?
Yes.
Why can't they do that?
Right.
That would be fun.
I mean, there are all sorts of simple ways. Davy Roberts said to me, and I hadn't thought of it. It's brilliant. It used to be, and I'm sure you did it, as did I, that you would get to the stadium early in order to be able to see your guys take batting.
BP, yes, BP, love it.
Mickey I mean, everything stopped when Mickey took batting practice. And I will tell you my famous Mickey Mantle story, but in a second. Now you can't do that.
Nope.
That made people into fans.
Yes.
Can't do it because now by the time you're the gates open and you're allowed in, the home team has disappeared.
I know.
Now, some of them don't take batting practice on the field at all because now we've got these traject machines, which are avatars of pitchers, but there's no wind. Right. You know when Ohtani was struggling this last postseason?
Yeah.
And did what he never did, which was batting practice on the field. That's the day his luck turned around.
Wow. We have 5 minutes. Okay.
Good.
But I got to ask you a quick trivia question. I went to trivia last night and see if you know it. Who is the first major league ball player to have his face on a Wheaties box?
I do know this, or I did know this.
I'm going to give you a real quick hint. I'm the luckiest man.
Oh, it's Gary, right?
Yeah.
It's in my Babe Ruth book. I knew it. Right?
And I know that I don't think we have enough time, but I love the story. I mean, both of us are Jewish, and heard the story of Sandy Koufax going to, was it your daughter's bat mitzvah?
My daughter's bat mitzvah.
Oh my gosh.
I was an overly indulgent parent saying, invite anybody, whoever. And I get the list, the stack of invitations, and there's his name on one of them. And I'm like, oh shit. And so I call him up and I say, Sandy, you don't have to come. I know how you feel about these things because it's exactly the age demographic where all the parents are going to be like, whoa. And I said, you don't have to do it. Just send her an autograph ball. And he said, no. And this is why he's the best human being probably who ever played baseball. He said, no, I'll be there for Emma because after all, I'm the guy who's taken her mother away from her for the last 2 years.
That's when you were doing the book about Sandy. Yeah.
I wrote the book about Sandy and about the Mick
and about the Mick and about the Babe. Yep.
Right. So, it was just amazing. And then the little boy who was being bar mitzvahed with her because it's a
say that. Yeah.
No, I said, Sandy, he's shy. People think he's a misanthrope. He's just shy around people he doesn't know. And we're all expecting him to be a personality. He walked away from baseball because he was the one guy in the world who had the imagination to realize that he could have as good a life after being Sandy Koufax as he could being Sandy Koufax.
Yeah.
And no, I don't want to be on the Hall of Fame selection.
Thank you, Bob, for your question.
I think it is, and most newspapers don't let their reporters do it because it's considered, ethically dicey.
Improper, yes.
Yeah.
All right, listen, we could talk another hour.
Oh, 3.
Well, yeah. I can't thank you enough. I mean,
my pleasure.
James,
did they sign Bichette yet?
Not yet. We're waiting.
Oh, that ought to improve their infield defense. Where are they going to play him? Second? I guess.
Third. I think they're going to get him, or they could move. They might move Stott over. It depends. There's a lot of dominoes that are going to fall if, in fact, they get him. Stott move over to third. Get rid of Bohm. Bohm is probably not here.
Hi, Jason. Glad you liked the story. And anyway, he teaches Emma how to throw a curveball.
Yeah.
Huge hands. And Emma's like, Mom, and it's before she has to go up on the bima and chant the Hebrew. And she takes the ball and she goes like this. He goes, no, that's not how you do it. That's how Branch Rickey wrecked all these, arms by making people do this because the torque on the elbow from doing that tears soft tissue. The rabbi gave sermons like about that, for the next 20 years. But the little guy who was with her pipes up. His voice has changed. He goes, that's not how you throw a curveball. And Sandy looks at him very sweetly and says, Jonathan, show me how you throw your curveball. And Jonathan takes the ball and he goes, exactly the way Sandy said not to do it. And Sandy says, Jonathan, why don't you try it my way just once? And his grandparents and the father are like schwitzing. And Jonathan says, oh, no, my coach said, that's not how you throw a curveball. And Sandy finally got exasperated. He's great with kids. He finally got exasperated. And he said, Jonathan, that's not how you throw a fucking curveball.
In the temple, in the synagogue. I love it.
In the rabbi's study.
In the rabbi's study, even better. May God forgive him. He knows why. All right, listen, Lou's got to go. I wish we didn't have to go, but absolutely so much fun. I so appreciate you. We'll have to meet at some point.
Yes.
Whenever that is, we'll keep in touch for sure.
And by the way, I know how to solve the salary cap issue too.
Oh my gosh! No, that's another one. We got to bring it around again.
Okay.
All right, Jane. So much. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Bye, Lou.
Bye.
Thanks, Lou, for letting us go a little bit longer. I appreciate it.
It was a great interview.
She's terrific. Folks, get the book. A lot of information, a lot of what she talked about with me here is in that book. If you love baseball, you'll love this book to see what has transformed over the years that has happened that's not good and what it can be based on her suggestions. All right, Lou, that was our trivia question. I needed to get that question about the bar mitzvah in there because that was a great one. And thanks for hanging out here. Appreciate it.
All right. My pleasure, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. It's a reminder, keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving. And as always, keep your minds open. So long, everybody.
Let's get Boba shit.